Hey guys, it's Fnat Guide, and today we are going to be comparing the designs of the Xbox One S Digital Edition with the recently debuted Xbox Series S. And why I say that is because there were a lot of rumors floating around about the Xbox Series S and whether or not it exists. It does, and it did. And then the design eventually leaked, and Microsoft was forced to confirm its existence, even though most of us already knew it existed because the name Xbox Series S was mentioned on controller packaging. So, anyway, let's get to it. First, let's start off with the most obvious parts. And the black area on the Series S that looks sort of like a stove or a griddle or whatnot above the top cooling area is probably the most obvious change compared to the 1S Digital Edition. Because up here it is sort of pronounced, but not all that much. I own a 1S, and you can tell that it is sort of pronounced compared to all those perforations there. They do carry over to the top, but in the cooling area on the top, those holes are bigger so that air can flow in there. And that's how I could tell. And by the way, I don't own a 1S Digital Edition. I own a 1S with an optical disc slot, just for clarification. And now, probably the other obvious distinction would be on the bottom. Compared to the Series S, or the 1S, the 1S has this black piece on the bottom that is slimmer than the rest of the body, or the rest of the console, I should say. And the Series S does not have that. It is the same width the whole way around, or the same length, depending on how you word it. And the USB drive and the controller sync button have been moved up slightly. They are still on the left of the console, but you can still tell that they are there. Whereas on the 1S, they are in that black area, along with an IR blaster on the far right. And that's where the controller sync button is. And just for reference, they started putting the controller recalibration button next to the USB port. They started doing that with the 1X. So if you're coming from a 1S and wondering how the controller sync button got next to the USB port, they started doing that with the 1X. Okay, so we're now looking at the back of each console, except they now have switched sides. And we are looking at a 1S Digital Edition and a Series S. The back of that, and Siri just turned on. And if you're wondering why the ports on the Series S are covered up, that is because the photo of the Series S is a dummy unit. The Series S is not a real unit, it's actually a dummy unit. So that's why the ports are covered up, because it's non-functional. So you can tell right away that, like the front, this black piece on the bottom is not there. It is all white all the way around, except for that black piece right there, for where the cooling is. And it's the same width or length, depending on how you look at it. And I don't know if that cooling, I don't know if this cooling port on the 1S, I don't think that is there on the Series S. There appears to be some tiny holes down there, and I think that is about it in terms of those. And also, in terms of the ports, on the Series S, it is down to just 6. Whereas on the Series S, you have about that. Not the Series S, that's the Series S. The Series S has 6, I'm referring to the 1S. The 1S has about like 7 or 8. So you obviously have less ports on the Series S. You have 1 HDMI port on the Series S compared to 2 on the 1S, because there's no HDMI in port. You don't need that. Anyway, if you're wondering why I didn't cover any of the sides, it's because they're mostly the same except for this black piece on the bottom for the 1S. And also for the Series S, the only thing that's basically different on this left side is the addition of rubber feet to accommodate a vertical position. And that's basically it. They basically remain the same on the sides. So we are right now looking at an image of several consoles stacked on top of each other. And right now we're looking at a Series X below that. We're looking at a Series S below a Series X. These two are dummy units, so they're not functioning. But right now we're going to talk dimensions. So you can see the Series S is a little bit wider than that 360 Slim sitting below it. But that 1X is much wider, you can tell. But now we are going to get into the numbers. So in terms of the horizontal width, so that would be the vertical height, the 1S is obviously going to outnumber it obviously going to beat it at 11.6 inches in terms of vertical height. And why I say vertical height is because the Xbox One is meant to sit horizontally by the orientation of the Xbox logo, which also functions as the power button. And the Series S, also by the orientation of the Xbox logo, I presume, also is meant to sit horizontally, even though you can also sit it vertically as well. So that's why I call it vertical height. So in terms of the Series S's vertical height, that stands in at 10.8 inches. So it's less than an inch difference, but it's still fairly shorter. Now in terms of depth, so how deep it goes on your shelf, there is an even difference. I'm going to say that much. In terms of the 1S, that comes in at 8.9 inches. And for the Series S, that comes in at 5.9 inches. So don't stack too many things on your Series S. And so there, like I said, there was an even difference between the two consoles. and that is a 3-inch difference in depth. So the 1S is obviously chunkier than the Series S, but that's going to change with this next dimension, and that is width. So it's going this way, like up and down. I would say width, or yeah, I'd say width, because vertical width or horizontal width, depending on how you look at it. So they come in the same at 2.5 inches. So no surprise there. And one thing I forgot to touch on when we were covering the front in terms of design differences, the power button on the Series S was moved up. So that's something I forgot to cover. And on the Series S, the perforations on the right half are not there. So that is something that I meant to cover and unfortunately omitted. So if you found this helpful, then please make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you next time.